Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Sports Communities Doing Sport Differently, live stream and podcast. I'm Steve Pallas, and I'm just really excited to be joined by Shasta O'Loughlin from the 13th Beach Boardriders. Shasta, welcome to the live stream.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for fitting us in between your morning surf. It's a different lifestyle, the surfing lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always the best thing to do in the morning, watch the sunrise, be in the water. A great way to start the day.
Fantastic. So surfing, as we were talking earlier, surfing's a big part of your life. Not only is it your hobby, your family's recreation, but it's also part of your professional life. So take us back. How did you get involved firstly in surfing?
I actually started surfing in my 20s. But it was more of just a kind of fun thing to do. And I was going out with a guy that surfed, so I'll join in, instead of sitting on the beach. And then it sort of backed off for me. I ended up heading up into the mountains and doing a fair bit of snow work through New South Wales and then overseas in Canada and America. And then after I did that stint of the snow work, I came back, and Rip Curl was always a company that I'd admired and grew up knowing, and moved to Ocean Grove and basically just wanted to work for Rip Curl. So I sort of just hounded them for a job and started in their customer service centre. And that was 15 years ago, and I've been there ever since. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And so as part of the 13th Beach Boardriders, you've created the women's branch or division, which the T-shirt's the logo for that branch. So do you want to just tell us the background and about the background of the T-shirt, but what inspired you to really be the driving force behind that opportunity?
Yeah. Well, I guess being surrounded at work by surf and women in surf and watching, these women, especially someone like Jessie Miley-Dyer, who's driving a whole new women's side of the WSL, it probably just gave me the confidence to actually go, there's a missing link in recreational surfing for that person that isn't your advanced surfer that wants to compete in competitive side of things. But there's so many women in the water that are riding all different sorts of surfboards. And if you think of a tennis club or a netball club, if you want to play socially, you go and join the night matches or something. So there's an avenue to actually be able to join a club and do it at a sort of lower level than that advanced competitive level. And I actually had my kids, so my oldest is 10, and we joined her up in the Boardriders about 3 years ago. And so we were going to the Grom competition. So within 13th Beach Boardriders, there's a few different events. So there's the seniors event, which covers all of your sort of over 16 competitors, showcasing the A divisions. And there is a women's division in that event. But the participation of that women's division was quite small. So generally they'd have maximum maybe six members that would surf. And that was the sort of women representation of the club. So when I was at these Groms comps and I'm standing on the beach and I'm in the water pushing my daughter into waves, just talking to a couple of the other parents, I'm like, when do we get to surf? We should go for a surf afterwards, or we'll get the dads to look after the kids and we'll jump in and go up the beach a bit and have a surf. And then I was talking to a couple of the guys who I work with who are also been club members for a long time. And they sort of had said, 13th Beach has got this really great business plan about, community and environment and also a real women's side. And so I was like, oh, what are you thinking with the women's side? And they were like, well, actually back in 97, there was this female arm of the club that was called Chick Surf 13th. And two girls that are still local girls, Mel Renton and M. Casey. So they created this Chick Surf 13th sort of arm and had young girls come in, and we're just trying to foster that, that real women, female side of the club. And they did really well back then, but obviously with time and things, it sort of faded away. And then, you know, me, a new person into the club, sort of looking at the opportunity, just went, well, we should have a mums division. So we started off last season having a division called the freestyle division, and that was for anyone that wanted to surf, and a lot of us were just the mums of the groms that were surfing. So we had our own heat and just started that way. And so we went from, you know, having, I think we had six open women, to then having probably another 8 women just join to be part of this sort of freestyle division. So that's how it all kind of began. And we were surfing with the kids, and it was a bit of fun and stuff. And then we kind of went, you know, there's so much more in this space. So we really put our heads together, and there was a Big Health grant going for female participation. And so I just kind of had a think and spoke to one of the guys that runs a surf school in Ocean Grove as well, who's a club member, and just said, you know, how could we angle this grant to be successful? And so we just put it together, and I basically just wanted to find a way to actually engage those people that were so into surfing but too intimidated to surf in the open women's, which was really that only division that was on offer, which is, you know, they surf Beacon and, you know, Bankura, which is, you know, sort of a more advanced wave. And so just that intimidation in itself is enough to just not sign up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll touch on and that's the whole point of these live streams and podcasts, is that the Vic Health is really keen. While they have those active club grants for clubs to come up with new participation ways of engaging people that are not currently participating traditionally. And so we just get to tell the stories of the clubs that win those grants, and it's just phenomenal. So there was a couple of words that you used that came out every single discussion that we have: confidence, intimidation, and all the time it seems to start with just one or two people really deciding that there was an opportunity. So even though we're talking surfing, there's some very consistent themes. So go back to those initial group. I mean, so how many have you got now, right, in that?
So we've got 56 women members.
56. Yeah. You've gone from a club where there was maybe 6 surfing in quite advanced to 56. And I'm assuming those 56 range from absolute complete novices, probably never surfed before, all the way through, working their way through to potentially going into those advanced competitions. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've kind of angled it to the people that have their own board and have, you know, they actually have, or they go on, you know, they go surfing a little bit, because I think to take on that full beginner, that's a whole nother sort of avenue. And there is a lot of surf schools around. You know, we're really lucky in Ocean Grove. We've got a women's only surf school run by Heather Peck, who's like a local legend. So we're really lucky to have that there. But what happens is you go and do a sort of a 6-week course on learning how to surf, and then you come out of it and you kind of go, okay, now I've got to go and just surf myself. I don't really know how to read the conditions. I don't really know what spots I can surf at. I don't really know any other surfers, because this could be like a new hobby or something. So then you just face these barriers of going, okay, I know that I might be able to go to Main Beach in Ocean Grove every time, but Main Beach can still be an intimidating beach and have some crazy rips and things like that. So the whole angle of this is going, okay, if you've got a surfboard and you've had a couple of lessons and you know how to surf and you want to be part of a club, then you can join us and we will assist you in getting better. So we've actually got a development session, so you don't have to compete, because generally board riders are all about the competitive circuit. So they are all aimed at that competitive surfer that wants to, you know, win the local comps, win the state comps. You know, there's these kids that want to be the next Callie Slater. Like, that's what board rider clubs are about. They're not about fostering people that are learning just how to catch a green wave over whitewash. Like, that's just a different level of a club. So we've really had to change the way that our club sort of thinks to go, no, we are willing to foster those people. And we have set up now the sort of event that we have a coach and we have a development session because we were successful with the grant from Vic Health. So we can pay a trained coach to come and help those girls and women to basically get the confidence to then join into our competitive events, which is basically just a fun event where, yes, you do get scored and, we do have winners and losers, but it's still a fun social event. And in that event as well, we're training people. So with the grant money, we did a judging course. So now we've got some female judges, which again, just reduce that sort of intimidation side of things where if there's women judging you, women running the beach, being the beach marshal, being the person you come up to sign up and talk to about your confidence levels and things like that, it just breaks down those barriers a little bit more.
And I'm living the experience that you're talking about because all three of my daughters have started surfing, and my two youngest, the 8 and 7-year-old, soon to be 9 and 7-year-old, they've just finished their 6-week course, and my wife and I are going, well, what do we do next? Where do we take them? Where is safe? What sort of boards do you even buy? And so we're looking, we're living that, and it's the way you describe the Board Riders Club is no different to a traditional footy club or cricket club that's just got the competitive option. Yeah. And one of the things that's coming through, particularly when we talk to the researchers in the Doing Sport Differently, is that one of the reasons that there's so many people not participating in the clubs is because traditionally it's just the competitive option. It's just, hey, this is for those competitive beasts. And we're now starting to understand that there's actually so many more people that don't fit that category but want to participate. And that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Building the confidence. I mean, I live on the ocean, albeit inside the bay, so it's nowhere near as scary. But the ocean is intimidating for most mere mortals. So apart from in the water, what else are you doing to – you've used the word confidence many times in this interview already – to build the people's confidence about picking the safe spot, understanding the water, being confident to actually go in and participate?
So last night we were meant to hold a talking surf information session for members at free of charge, and then we also opened it up to non-members as well for a small fee. But what we were going to do last night was run a session on 13th Beach. So 13th Beach is a really long stretch of beach. It has lots of different surf spots in it, and it is quite it can be intimidating, it can be really gentle, it can be, we've had some recent deaths there, which is terrible. Yes. And so, we thought, and again, this has helped through the grant money that we've got, is to go, we're going to dedicate these sessions to just making sure the women in the community, and making them women only as well, which, just to break down again that sort of intimidation or confidence factor, to go, we'll give you some information on the best spots to surf for your level. We'll talk about different boards for different spots or sizes. So there is that level of communication on the side. Plus we also I manage a messenger group. So locally, so this morning I get to the beach, I take a photo, I say what the surf looks like, whether it's good for a short board or a mid-length or a long board, just sort of give that confidence. And then, within 5 minutes I had, there's sort of 6 girls, I'm on my way. And I'm like, right, I'm out the front of the ramp. And then you're in the water and all of a sudden there's 6 people paddled up. Hey, Shasta, So you've got that, someone, you can see someone in the water. So you've got that outside of those competitive events. We've set up that community to go, and the best thing about that is sometimes, it might be the forecast for the next morning is going to be a really clean, small, winds are good. So you can say, those people that are a bit nervous about coming to 13th, I'll be there at 7 o'clock. If you want to join me, I'll take you with me. So yeah, that's that fostering and I guess just creating that community. Sorry, is the sun gone crazy?
No, that's all good. It's
the sun's coming through the window. So I think that's probably the that is probably where we've had the most social stuff. And before Christmas, we met for a social surf and had coffee afterwards. And there's a new surf movie out, and we were talking about all going to movies together. So I guess, but it's all facilitated just through a messenger group on Facebook, really. That's sort of how we're communicating with each other. Plus people, non-members, just community, women as well. So,
and again, if we compare the way that you're operating, and surf demands this as well, because at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, the surf's not always great, so traditional sports across the board in their competitive formats say we train Tuesday, we train Thursday, and we play Saturday arvo, and that's what we do. Whereas part of the appeal of what it is, more broadly, the surfing culture, is that, hey, the conditions say it's right. So communicate out, and that flexibility, that support, that, hey, this is where I am, just come and join socially just for a surf, is a really big part of the culture, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think, when I first started surfing down here, a lot of the times I would be the only girl in the water. And, I had it the other day. I was the only girl in the water with about 3 guys and had, got some great waves and was really happy. And then all of a sudden there was about 10 guys that just came out, and then it turned into this, lots of paddling around each other and just that hustle, and just became a bit more of a full-on surf. And so then all of a sudden you go from having really fun and, feeling good, and then all of a sudden it's like, and I still don't have the confidence to just go and stick myself in the middle of that group and paddle through, because I'm still gaining the confidence in my own surfing, which, and I've been surfing for a long time, but again, we all need that support, and it's not like you really go out and just get a surf lesson once you're a surfer. Yeah. So that's another thing, that there's limited options. Like, there's not many trainers that just train people that are at that intermediate level that just want to take their surfing to the next level. They're all sort of set up for that beginner on the G boards in the white water, get you standing up, sort of that style of surf training, but then it kind of backs away. So you're just expected to do it yourself. So I'd love to see this go, like, to be able to do fitness and yoga and surf specific weight training, like all of these other things that make your surfing so much better, as part of the club, and how we offer this sort of, I guess, to members, like, have that network. It's just about changing the culture, I guess, of traditional board riders and what that looks like. So
I'm going to come to that in a minute, because I really want to explore that side. But before we do, how do the women and girls feel when they when they reach out to you the first time? I mean, how are they connecting? Are you running come and try days or meetups, or through the network, or bring a friend?
Well, COVID has really challenged me because at the moment, like, I've got some great girls that are on the committee with me. Our secretary and our equipments manager are both, keen surfers and really dedicated to the club, and, just brainstorming with those girls and just trying to come up with the ideas. But yeah, we've had, social dinner nights planned. We've had information nights, come to the beach, bring a board, we'll talk about what the club's about, that sort of thing. All of that kind of got put on hold. So we basically just ran the events. And obviously with those events, because 56 members, with about 10 of those being just social members, so non-surfing members, and they've joined, to just support the cause, and they surf, but they're just sort of a non-surfing member. They get the t-shirt and come to the event and stuff like that. So there is that angle as well. So we've got the option for the surfer, we've got the option for the social, and then just trying to do things outside of that competitive event is where I've got all these ideas, but COVID has just stuck it to us a bit and made it a real challenge. But yeah, I think moving forward, once again, we were going to have that information session, that's the sort of stuff that I think bringing the community together and offering something else. And, sometimes you lock in a surf session and, like you said, the surf's terrible. But sometimes you just got to get out there. You got to get out there in any condition. But if you've got someone with you, or you've got a couple of girls with you, and you're going out together, then you're more likely to go out rather than just get out of the car, have a look, and go, I'm going. So
that social side, because surfing from an outsider looking in looks like a very individualized sport, but you've used social continually through the discussion. How important is that in bringing the girls together?
I think it's really important, because I think if you're a surfer, you're actually most other surfers that you meet, you've all got similar kind of I guess the way you live your life, or the same sort of benefits that you get in the water. Someone might get from running a 10K run in the morning, those endorphins and things like that. If you're a surfer, you get that from the water, you get that sense of calm, that mental health kind of check to go, I know if I haven't been for a surf for more than 3 days, I get a bit kind of edgy, and sometimes I just have to go for a swim. And we're really lucky because we've got the river here. So there's a lot of girls that do supping as well. Yep. So you see girls up supping together. And I think even though it is an individual sport, as soon as you make it a group and a group sport, we've had days where, a husband's paddled over and we've got 8 girls in the water and we're all chatting and laughing and cheering each other on the waves. And he's just like, oh my gosh, you girls, I'm out of here, and paddle away. Because it's just a different, and there's probably some girls that doesn't suit either, which is totally fine. But I think there's a large number of women that love that, and young girls that would love to, know some more faces in the water. And you get a really great wave. Sometimes you look around, you're like, did anyone see that? And then if you've got a group of girls, they're like, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Got a GoPro?
It's, so I think surfing is a really community thing, but it's not portrayed like that, because it is so, individual in your own head. How do you surf? How good are you? All those intimidations of, did I get the best wave? Did I fall off when I took off? And that's a lot of the intimidation is, if you don't have that confidence at the spot you're surfing and you fall off, and then people in the water get frustrated because it's like a waste of a wave, and then you get intimidated. And, whereas if you've got your girlfriend there, you can be like, I mucked that one up, all right, just go to the next one, just that reassurance from someone else in the water next to you. And I surf with my husband too, so it's definitely not just a women thing. It's just about knowing people in the water. But I think what we're doing with the club is just creating that really social, fun, supportive, inclusive sort of angle to just engage and get people surfing together.
So how important is it that it's women helping women, supporting women? Because it could just as easily have men being the marshals or men being the facilitators, or possibly a lot easier because there might be more availability of them. But how important is it to be women supporting women?
I think it's really important. We've definitely had, some great support, and we still do, from the men in the club, that, this was their vision too. but I think it is delivered much better by a woman than a man, if that, and I think that I probably had the confidence and the connections through work to be that person to actually drive it again.
Yeah.
Because I do still need the guys to help me out with location selection for our events. I still need them to help set the generator up and get the petrol going, and there is those things. But as we learn and as the community comes bigger, I imagine that all of those tasks we should be able to just run a comp by ourselves.
Because they're not gendered things, they're just skill sets, aren't they?
Skill sets, and that's just about us learning. And I think what happens generally in the other comps, so our senior comp and our Grom comp, a lot of the time it is the dads that, set the marquees up and carry the barbecue around and do all this stuff, and you sort of don't do it unless you're asked. But I think there's something really powerful about a group of women carrying marquees down to the beach and chairs and trestle tables and setting ourselves up. And then, and I think the other part, I've started really, trying to communicate via email. So, because not everyone's on social media. So trying to have all of the members' emails together, try and communicate through that, try and give them as much knowledge about the comp or the expectations of the following day, what the conditions are going to be like. Because I think that's one thing, when I first started surfing, I actually signed up for the Open Women as well as doing the mums group, just to kind of try and see and push myself. And what generally happens with the comp is you get told, okay, the comp's on this day, and then in the morning at 6 or 7 you get a location area. So for me, someone with 3 young children, and then not knowing what time I was actually going to surf, I was like, do I need to get the kids looked after from 7 in the morning, or am I right to take the kids with me and I'll just surf for 20 minutes and then I'm out? So trying to juggle home life to actually make it to an event and be there and be able to surf was actually really hard in my own sort of logistics of doing that. Yeah. So with the women's comp, what I'm trying to actually do as well is have a bit more of a schedule sort of locked in to say, okay, in the morning we're going to start with the freestyle A division, which is in the first heat is going to be these 4 people or these 5 people. So those people the night before know they have to be there at that time.
Yep.
And that's probably something that I kind of just as a member kind of was like, I feel like I just want to know more information. But sometimes with surfing, it's a really hard thing to be able to give people, a clear understanding of what's going to be happening with the surf, or what time you're going to be required. So yeah.
But you still, as much as possible, tailoring the experience to the participant, not the participant having to mold themselves around the sport, which is very traditional. Now I'm not going. This next question, I'm not talking specifically about 13th Beach Boardriders because I don't know the club, but research says that sport needs to be. And when I say researchers, the researchers that have come onto the Doing Sport Differently live streams, and it has just been absolutely clear that the way forward for sports participation is the way that you're presenting sport, very flexible, very tailored to the people that are participating, understanding the barriers, taking them away one by one, really incorporating social participation, social competition, leading into and out of more competitive options. So that's what the research says that sports must look like into the future if it's going to survive. How are you finding taking that culture, that methodology, those into a traditional, quite competitive club like the 13th Beach Boardriders?
I have to say it's been challenging, and I've had moments of questioning, is it the right platform to do it in? So is a traditional board riders club the right, angle or the right banner to run these sorts of programs under? But I think they are, but I just don't know what else you would do. So, we've got amazing facilities down here at surf clubs, and but there's no surf programs run through surf clubs. So the fact you've got these, life-saving and, the one in Ocean Grove, there's gyms and there's facilities and you can go have showers and all of that. But yet there's not a real connection between surf clubs and surf life-saving clubs, which that's the other avenue that could possibly open up the doors, I guess, to allow a bit more of this. But board riders clubs, yes, they are that real competitive side, and they are, there's kids in ours that do want to be the next Kelly Slater. So you have to have a program that facilitates those kids, because otherwise they're going to move on to a different club that is offering that. But I think that the way that this is successful is running a separate kind of banner under the board riders. I don't know if other board rider clubs would do it, because board rider clubs are really quite competitive with each other. They are, that there's lots of history as well, lots of history and lots of stories, and the board rider clubs were the ones that caused lots of trouble in communities, whereas the surf clubs didn't do that and things. So I think, I don't know. I mean,
let me try and answer your question from, and I'll convert it away from surfing, just to definitely not be specific to your club, but unquestionably, if we look at probably 10 years forward, the traditional clubs that just offer the traditional competition, if they don't offer the social introductory courses or options and create that pathway of people of all ages not being able to join the sport, learn the sport, grow their confidence, participate socially, potentially participate competitive socially, which is what you set up. And then if they choose to go into the competition side, that's actually the perfect pathway.
Yeah.
What happens in most clubs is that competition side is actually diminishing. Now, surfing might actually be a little bit the opposite, going into the Olympic Games, have that impetus coming out of that. But by and large, the number of people participating competitive over time is reducing in clubs. And so what we're seeing, probably the best example of tackling the establishment, pretty much like what you're doing, is barefoot bowls. Barefoot bowls, the bowls clubs hated it. I hated it when it came in. What do you mean you're not going to wear shoes? What do you mean you're not going to wear white pants? What do you mean you're going to play music? That's ridiculous. Yes, you can drink, but don't do it on the green, sort of stuff. And now, a decade on, and these were the same clubs that we're using, and these are stats from Bowls Australia. They were losing members year on year for 30 years. Barefoot Bowls comes in, and then it's like a hockey stick. The participation just goes skyrocketing because they made it easy for people to come in, get confidence, learn the sport, learn the etiquette, learn the language. I mean, and then come into the Barefoot Bowls, Jack Attack, which is their social competitions, and then their pennant. And then what we're finding is that people were coming back out. They're going up, playing ultra competitive, and then coming back down the chain, social competition, because they don't want to do competition anymore. So without talking specifically about your club, I think unquestionably that's the right angle. Two researchers, Dr. Rochelle Imey that came on and Dr. Erica Randall, both stated that they see it going to be very difficult for clubs that don't offer what you're looking to bring to the club to survive over the next 10 years because consumers change that much. So, is it right for your club? Well, that's a different conversation. But generally, unquestionably it's right, and it is that bit of cultural generational change, which is really, really important.
Yeah, and I think clubs do it really well for that Grom division. So those, the kids,
Introductory kids.
yeah, they have expression sessions, and they do beach activities, and we have a Christmas party, like fun stuff for that kids side of things, and but again, once you get to that 14, sort of 13, 14-year-olds, then you've got to sort of choose, okay, do you end up going into the open comp, which is with all the seniors, and you're surfing bigger surf and all that. So really then that's when sometimes the kids fall off, because they don't want to surf in that big competitive side of things, or the pushing themselves that much. So that age group is where we go, well, now I'm quite happy to have, if there's people that aren't confident to go into that senior comp, we'll take them into, the women's comp, and because we're actually surfing at a different location that's not as intimidating on the same day. So that's something, and we've actually seen some more take up for our under 16 girls, which has been a real lack in our club too. So I think definitely, and the barefoot bowls thing, because I think that's my only experience with bowls, is going and doing barefoot bowls. And yeah, I think surf clubs will always have that competitive side of those people that want to compete, and they all want that. But yeah, if they really do want to be part of that full community and show that there is that equality and inclusiveness and everything, then there does actually need to be this other side of it.
Yeah, and it's not about taking away the competition. It's absolutely that's vital. The ultimate honour now, I guess, in surfing is, well, probably not the ultimate, but in most sports, the ultimate honour is from an under-8 kid coming through the grades and winning a gold medal. You have that alternative, or winning the world, winning bells, or winning the world championship. The other thing that you do point out just then was, sports have, this is across the board in sport, they have a lot of trouble introducing people if outside of the age groups of what the traditional, so that the Groms, which is the introductory surfing for kids, I think it's 6 to 12, I think. Yeah. And that's how typical AFL is, Auskick and Netball 5s and NetSet Go and those introductory programs. But what if I'm a 14 to 65-year-old and go, oh, you know what? I want to try surfing, or I want to try netball, or I want to try archery. It's very challenging to come in, and what you're doing is creating that avenue of anyone of any age to be able to come in, grow their confidence, and participate the way they want. And I think that's just extraordinary.
Yeah, we did push the boundaries as well, because we actually introduced a mid-length division. So talking surfboards, and Boardriders clubs are generally your short boards, so performance short boards, and then you've got your longboard clubs, which is sort of your 9-foot plus boards. Yep. So we're a traditional Boardriders, short board, but there's so many girls out there that are surfing these mid-length boards. So you're sort of 7 and 8 foot boards, and all different shapes and sizes, and single fins and fishes and twin fins and all sorts. So we actually included a division called the mid-length division into the women's comp as well, and that's actually the one that has got the most people in it. So
give them what they want. And
traditionally there isn't clubs don't offer a mid-length division. You're either a longboarder or you're a shortboarder. So that was another angle that kind of, and it's been really successful, because that is those people. It's a different technique. It's a different style of surfing. It suits Ocean Grove, because Ocean Grove Main Beach is generally a gentler wave. And a lot of people that start later in life need a bit more of a bigger board just to have fun and get waves. So, but yeah, then a longboard is a completely different, longboard. Some of the girls that surf longboards and do it well are amazing. Just watching them glide and walk up and down their boards and stuff is an amazing thing to watch. So, yeah. And just you've said before about having that competitive side. So the open women's division, like I go and watch it. Like it's amazing. These girls that surf it and, perform in our club are great, and it's great and it's inspirational to watch them surfing. But by having that sort of our women's comp, and we can go, you should be surfing in the open women because you have the skills, you're an amazing surfer, but they might be lacking the confidence. So they come in, surf with us in the intermediate kind of space, and then we're going, you need to go up there. So, and then there's that supportive group of more women in the club coming and watching. It's not just a 20-minute heat with all the blokes and the girls out there, and then you come in and off you go. So that was sort of another thing that I've seen in the last 12 months as well, is just that support for those girls that are surfing the bigger and more competitive wave as well. So,
well, and just to finalise, and speaking of pushing the bounds, we've now gone over 41 minutes for this conversation, and we try and keep it under 30. So that's because everything that you've talked about is really pushing the bounds. And if we bring it back just finally to the competitive club, you said at the start of the interview that there might be 5 or 6 girls surfing in those really competitive heats. Are you seeing an increase in those numbers now, even over that short period of time? So what numbers was it the last time they did it?
So last season we were lucky to have 3 girls in each heat, or one. So one comp you'd have three girls surfing in that. Now I think we've got about 10 open women signed up. So there's enough in there to do 2 heats and a final, which means you get to surf more than once. Even though it's still a small number of 10, 10 women doesn't sound much when
it's a 300% increase.
Yeah. It's just, and I think, but there's some women that, like I said, they could be surfing in that division, but they're choosing to come to the women's comp because they want that community and they want that, they still want to be part of the club and have that fun and a competitive surf, but they want the women's social side of things too. So there is a very different, and I think that's something that as we move forward with how we deliver our comps and deliver the programs, it will be trying to bring that together, but also we don't want to completely segregate the women from the club either. So we still want to have that pinnacle open women's division that really showcases those girls that are ripping surfers. And some of them are, want to be competing at state level and things like that too. So we have to, by trying to nurture and have more women in that, it gives those competitive surfers the grounds to have people to compete against, the competition to actually run forward. So I think it's always going to be that balance of supporting it, but also trying to make sure that within that event is still that sort of women's representation, I guess. And to foster those juniors coming through, give them some mentors and things to look at, and other women in the water for them.
And create that pathway. And that's why we bring it back to that discussion. Why would clubs, really competitive beast clubs, even entertain the social introductory levels of sport? Because it makes them better competitors. It actually makes them better clubs. And I think you're trailblazing into a sport that is just coming onto everyone's attention at the moment, and the Olympics coming up, touch wood. And Shasta, as I said, we're just going to go under 45 minutes. You were worried you didn't have enough to talk for 30. We always talk for 30, so now you've got the record for the longest podcast live stream interview. So thank you so much for sharing the story of your journey with building the women's group of the 13th Beach Boardriders. It's been amazing. We could chat for hours, but we better stop here.
Thanks so much, and thanks for letting me share the story.
No, fantastic. So until next week, I'm Steve Pallas, Shasta O'Loughlin. Thank you so much. And for those that were listening, for those that were watching, thank you for being part of our sports community.